The Ghost Algorithm, brought to you by Short AI Stories. Publishing and Web Designs by OHS Publishing. Looking for web design or SEO? Call OHS Publishing. Elena Rostova knew the market better than most people knew their own families. She knew its moods, its lies, its little superstitions. She knew the way fear moved through it before fear had a name. A rumor in Asia, a whisper in London, a policy leak in Washington, a shipping delay in Long Beach, a nervous hedge fund manager tapping his wedding ring against a glass conference table. To Elena, none of it was random. It was the weather. And she had built the machine that could read the storm before the first drop of rain hit the pavement. The algorithm was called AURORA. Officially, AURORA was a predictive trading intelligence system developed by Ardenvale Capital, one of the most powerful investment firms on Wall Street. Ardenvale managed sovereign wealth funds, pensions, private equity, energy portfolios, and the kind of money that never appeared in public filings until it had already changed the shape of the world. Unofficially, AURORA was Elena's masterpiece. She had designed its core architecture 3 years earlier, long before the board understood what they had. It could analyze market pressure points across millions of data streams and forecast volatility windows with terrifying accuracy. It did not just watch stocks, it watched human behavior, political sentiment, executive travel schedules, corporate logistics, legal filings, hiring freezes, satellite imagery, weather disruptions, search trends, supply chain movement, social panic. AURORA did not predict the future. It calculated how fragile the present was, and Elena had always believed that was dangerous enough. She discovered the back door at 2:13 in the morning on a Tuesday. The office was mostly empty by then, though Ardenvale's Manhattan Tower never truly slept. 57 floors of tinted glass and quiet violence. There were always analysts glowing pale beneath monitors, always traders drinking coffee that tasted like burnt metal, always lawyers walking briskly through halls as if chased by crimes they had not yet committed. Elena sat alone in quantitative strategy, barefoot beneath her desk, her black heels kicked to the side, near a wastebasket full of protein bar wrappers. Rain clawed at the windows behind her. She had not meant to look for anything sinister. That was the worst part. It started as an anomaly in the overnight simulation. AURORA had flagged a mid-cap logistics company, Bellwether Freight, as a catastrophic short opportunity 46 hours before any public data supported the move. The prediction was too clean, too confident, a 91% probability of a major stock collapse. Elena leaned closer to her screen. "Why?" she whispered. The model should have shown its causal pathways: labor disruption, fuel exposure, earnings irregularities, operational inefficiency, or maybe a regulatory flag. Instead, part of the logic tree had been sealed behind an administrative partition. That alone made her stomach tighten. She had written AURORA so that no prediction could be fully opaque. Her mentor, CEO Nathaniel Vale, had agreed with her at the beginning. "No black boxes," he had said, smiling that smooth, expensive smile of his. "We're not gamblers, Elena. We're cartographers." But someone had added a locked route through the system, someone with root access, someone above her. Elena bypassed the first wall in 7 minutes. The second took 23. The third required an old authentication exploit she had discovered years ago and never reported, because she liked knowing there was one door in the building that belonged only to her. Then the partition opened. Elena stared. For a moment, she did not understand what she was seeing. Her mind rejected it, the way the body rejects poison. AURORA was not simply identifying market instability, it was creating it. There were outbound influence packages hidden beneath layers of internal process names, automated sell pressure across dark pools, synthetic rumor amplification through social accounts, anonymous tips to regulatory agencies, timed withdrawals of liquidity, pressure campaigns against vulnerable suppliers, coordinated media narratives. All of it was designed to trigger weakness in targeted companies moments before Ardenvale took massive short positions against them. Bellwether Freight was not going to collapse because AURORA predicted it. Bellwether Freight was going to collapse because Ardenvale had already started pushing. Elena clicked through file after file. Energy firms, pharmaceutical companies, regional banks, agricultural suppliers. Some had survived, some had not. In one archived campaign, AURORA had helped trigger a panic around a small medical device company by amplifying reports about a product defect that turned out to be false. The stock had cratered. Ardenvale made $1.8 billion. The company laid off 9,000 employees across 3 countries. Eleanor's hands went cold. She searched deeper. There was a master ledger. Every attack, every position, every executive approval. Her name appeared throughout the files, attached to the core system, not as an accomplice, as the architect. The room seemed to tilt. Elena pushed back from her desk and stood, breathing too fast. Outside, rain blurred the city into streaks of silver and black. Her phone buzzed. A message from Nathaniel Vale. "Still here? Come up." She looked toward the ceiling as if she could see through 57 floors to his office. Then another message arrived. "Now, Elena." Nathaniel's office occupied the top floor and faced the dark throat of the Hudson. There were no family photos on his desk, no clutter, no personal objects except a single antique chess set positioned near the window, always mid-game, always with black winning. He stood when she entered. "Elena," he said warmly, "you look like you've seen a ghost. I found the back door." His smile did not change. That frightened her more than if he had denied it. He walked to the bar beside the wall and poured himself a glass of water. Not whiskey. Nathaniel never drank when he needed control. "Sit down," he said. "No." He nodded once, as if approving her courage. "You were always going to find it," he said. "Eventually. You used my system to manipulate markets. We used your system to understand pressure. You destroyed companies. We accelerated outcomes that were already possible. That's not a defense. It's reality." Elena laughed once, sharp and unbelieving. People lost jobs, pensions, homes. You engineered collapses and profited from them. Nathaniel tilted his head. "Do you know what markets are, Elena? They're stories people agree to believe until someone tells a better one. We learned how to tell better stories. This is criminal. Criminality is a matter of timing and jurisdiction. I copied the ledger." That was a lie. She had not yet. For the first time, Nathaniel's face moved, a tiny tightening at the corner of one eye. "There you are," Elena thought. "There's the animal." "Where is it?" he asked. "Somewhere safe." "No, it isn't." The certainty in his voice made her skin crawl. He stepped closer, slow and paternal. "You are brilliant," he said, "but you are not built for war. You believe information saves people. It doesn't. Information is ammunition. Whoever fires first survives." Elena backed toward the door. "I'm going to the SEC." "No, you're going home. You're going to sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk about compensation, protection, whatever moral architecture you need to keep functioning." "I'm done." Nathaniel's expression softened, almost sadly. "You don't get to be done with something you created." Elena left without another word. She did not go home. She returned to quantitative strategy, copied everything she could access, buried it across 3 encrypted drives, and sent one small test file to an attorney she barely trusted under a subject line that read, "In case I disappear." At 4:47 a.m., she walked out of Ardenvale Capital for the last time. By evening, she was almost dead. The crash happened on the FDR drive. Elena remembered headlights. A black SUV is moving too fast in the rain. Her friend and colleague, Priya Sanvi, was shouting her name from the passenger seat. Then metal screamed. The world folded. When Elena woke, she was upside down, hanging from her seatbelt, blood dripping into her hairline. The car had flipped against the barrier. Steam hissed from the engine. Somewhere close, tires shrieked and kept going. "Priya?" No answer. Elena twisted, pain flashing white through her ribs. "Priya?" Priya stared forward, eyes open, neck at an odd angle. Elena made a sound she would never remember making. Beyond the cracked windshield, flames licked from beneath the hood. Her door was jammed. Her left wrist would not move. She tasted blood and gasoline. Then she saw the river, black water below. A thought came to her with perfect, terrible clarity. They would not stop. Nathaniel would make the crash an accident. He would make Priya collateral damage. He would make Elena a grieving survivor with a compromised memory and a security detail that never let her breathe. Or he would finish the job. Unless Elena Rostova died tonight. She unbuckled herself and fell hard against the crushed roof. The pain nearly made her pass out. She crawled through the broken side window just as the engine fire spread. Her coat caught on torn metal. She pulled free, leaving fabric and blood behind. A truck driver was running toward the wreck. "Ma'am, stay there!" Elena looked at him, then at Priya, then at the river. "I'm sorry," she whispered. She climbed over the barrier and dropped into the dark. The explosion came before she hit the water. For 3 days, the news called her missing. On the 4th, they called her dead. The body had not been recovered, but the official story was clean enough for public consumption. Promising Ardenvale executive and lead data scientist, killed in tragic crash. The passenger was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver was presumed to have been swept away by the current. Nathaniel Vale issued a statement. Elena Rostova was more than a colleague. She was family. Her genius changed this firm forever. That part was true, just not how he meant it. 6 weeks later, a woman named Lena Ross rented a small converted office above a shuttered print shop in Kansas City, Missouri. She paid cash. She wore cheap glasses, kept her dark hair cropped at her chin, and spoke with a flattened Midwestern softness that had taken 3 weeks of practice in motel rooms across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Kansas City was not random. Elena had been born there. Before scholarships, before MIT, before Wall Street, before she learned that the rich did not break laws so much as bend reality around them, she had lived in a narrow house near the edge of the city with a mother who cleaned medical offices at night and a father who fixed elevators until his back gave out. No one at Ardenvale knew much about her childhood. She had made sure of that. Nathaniel knew her degrees, her patents, her awards. He knew her intellect. He did not know the blocks where she had learned to disappear. Her office had 1 desk, 3 monitors, blackout curtains, a burner phone, a coffee maker, a cot, and enough network equipment to make a federal investigator either proud or nervous. She slept badly. She worked constantly. She moved the ledger in pieces, never all at once. 1 tranche went to the SEC through a whistleblower attorney in Washington. Another went to a financial journalist in London, known for burning sources only if they lied. A third went to a congressional aide with a reputation for hating Wall Street more than he loved career advancement. But leaking was not enough. Ardenvale could bury documents. They could delay investigations. They could challenge metadata, discredit sources, buy silence, intimidate witnesses. Elena needed to make them bleed in a language they understood. Money. Using shell accounts, foreign brokers, and strategies small enough to avoid attention, Elena began shorting Ardenvale's exposed positions. Not the firm directly at first. That would be too obvious. She targeted their hidden dependencies, their liquidity partners, their insurance wrappers, their offshore instruments. Every time she leaked a tranche, she placed a trade. Every time Ardenvale moved to contain the damage, she profited just enough to fund the next phase. The ghost had learned to haunt. For almost 4 months, it worked. Then Lucas Thorne arrived. Ardenvale did not employ Lucas. Officially, he did not appear on payroll. He had no title, no office, no company email. He appeared on legal invoices under headings such as Strategic Risk Advisory and Reputational Containment. He was the kind of man corporations hired when lawyers were too visible and criminals were too unreliable. He had once made a bribery investigation vanish in Singapore by convincing the lead witness that his teenage son was being followed. He had once ended a labor revolt in Argentina without touching a single union leader. He had once flown to Zurich for 6 hours and returned with a banker's confession, a hard drive, and 3 broken fingers that were not his. Lucas Thorne did not enjoy violence. Enjoyment was messy. He preferred leverage. Nathaniel met him in a private dining room beneath an old hotel where no one looked directly at anyone else. "She's alive," Lucas said before sitting. Nathaniel did not react. "We don't know that." "Yes, you do. You just hoped I'd say otherwise." Lucas placed a folder on the table. Inside were maps, financial records, fragments of encrypted routing logs, and photographs from traffic cameras along the route between New York and Missouri. "The leaks are disciplined," Lucas said. "Personal, punitive. Whoever is doing this knows your systems from the inside and hates you enough to take risks but not enough to be sloppy." Nathaniel opened the folder. A grainy image showed a woman at a bus station in Columbus, head lowered beneath a baseball cap. "You're certain?" "No. Certainty is for amateurs. But I'm interested." Nathaniel looked up. Lucas smiled faintly. She went home. Kansas City had changed enough to feel unfamiliar and stayed the same enough to hurt. Elena spent mornings moving through the city like a ghost among strangers. Coffee shops, libraries, co-working spaces, public markets. She never used the same route twice. She carried a knife she hoped never to use and a phone she destroyed every 11 days. Then she met Daniel Mercer. He appeared in her building on a Wednesday afternoon, carrying a cardboard box and swearing quietly at the stairwell. "Sorry," he said when he saw her. "Didn't know anyone else was up here." Elena stood in the hall, one hand inside her coat pocket. He was early 40s, maybe. Sandy hair, tired eyes, a face that looked friendly because it had practiced being harmless. He wore a faded UMKC hoodie and carried himself like someone recovering from a life that had gone sideways. "I'm renting the back room," he said. "Consulting, cybersecurity stuff, very boring, mostly telling small companies their passwords are terrible." Elena said nothing. He shifted the box. "I'm Daniel. Lena. Nice to meet you, Lena." He did not offer his hand. Smart, she thought. Or trained. For 2 weeks, Daniel was there. He made coffee badly. He complained about the radiator. He left at inconsistent hours. He asked questions, but never the wrong ones. Where was the nearest decent lunch spot? Did the Wi-Fi always dip around noon? Was the landlord as useless as he seemed? Elena kept her distance. Then one night, she found him sitting on the stairs with a bloody towel pressed to his eyebrow. "What happened?" she asked before she could stop herself. "Cabinet door," he said. "That cabinet door punched you?" "Emotionally, yes." She almost smiled. Almost. He let her clean the cut in the utility sink. He winced theatrically when she applied antiseptic. "You have very steady hands," he said. "You have a very soft pain tolerance." "That's fair." It was the first time she laughed in months. That was how he got in. Not all at once, not dramatically. Lucas understood that intimacy was not built from grand gestures. It was built from repetition. A door held open, a coffee remembered. A silence was respected, a joke at the right time, a wound offered. As Daniel, he became a fixture in the edges of her life. He recommended a mechanic. He warned her when the landlord brought inspectors through. He once sat with her during a thunderstorm when the power flickered, and she went so still that he knew the fear had come from somewhere deeper than the weather. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes." Convincing. "I don't like sudden noises." "Me neither." That was a lie. Lucas Thorne liked sudden noises just fine. They revealed things. Elena knew better than to trust him. But loneliness is not stupidity. It is hunger, and hunger makes even poisoned food look warm. The false information came slowly. A mention of a client who worked in financial compliance. A rumor about SEC timing. A casual observation about journalists chasing the wrong source. Each detail was crafted to test whether Elena would react. She did not. But later that night, one of Lucas's planted data paths was accessed from a masked node bouncing through 3 countries before touching a server in Missouri for less than half a second. Lucas stared at the trace in his hotel room and smiled. "Hello, Elena." The next morning, Daniel brought coffee. Elena looked at the cup. "You remembered oat milk. I contain multitudes. You contain something." His smile was easy. Hers was not. The war became quiet after that. Elena fed him fragments of herself that were almost true. Lucas fed her fragments of Ardenvale's internal response that were almost true. Each tried to map the other through absence. He noticed she never sat with her back to a door. She noticed his left hand had no calluses despite his story about renovating an old house. He noticed she scanned rooftops. She noticed he never struggled to find words when lying. He noticed she was using decoy leaks. She noticed he wanted her to notice. The final tranche of the ledger was too large to move from her office, too sensitive, too dangerous. It had to be uploaded from a physical server she had quietly built inside a downtown Kansas City data center under the name of a Dead Logistics LLC that Ardenvale had once destroyed. The irony pleased her. The risk did not. She scheduled the upload for 1 a.m. on a Friday when staffing would be minimal and network traffic heavy enough to hide the transfer. The files would go to the SEC, 3 news organizations, 2 foreign regulators, and if interrupted, a dead man's switch would release everything publicly. At 11:42 p.m., Daniel knocked on her office door. Elena froze. "Lena," he called softly. "You in there?" She opened the door 6 inches. He stood in the hall with rain on his jacket. "Bad night?" she asked. "Could ask you the same." "I'm working. At midnight with a go bag." Her face changed before she could stop it. He did too. The mask slipped. Only a little, but enough. Elena stepped back. Daniel sighed. "You're very hard to keep alive," he said. There it was. Not Daniel. Never Daniel. Lucas Thorne watched grief, rage, and humiliation pass across her face in a single second. He admired how quickly she buried all 3. "What did he offer you?" she asked. "Money." "That's it?" "No. Money is rarely it." He stepped into the room. She backed toward her desk. "Lucas Thorne," she said. He smiled. "I was wondering when you'd say my name." "I knew weeks ago." "No, you suspected weeks ago. You knew when I said go bag." Elena's hand moved under the desk. Lucas lifted his own. "Don't. Your panic button has been rerouted." Her pulse thundered. He looked around the office, taking in the monitors, the cables, the cot, the cold coffee. "You built a bunker out of grief," he said. "You built a personality out of vacancy. Fair. What happens now? You give me the final ledger. You vanish for real. Somewhere warm, maybe. Nathaniel gets bruised, not broken. Everyone survives. Priya didn't." For the first time, Lucas looked almost regretful. "That was badly handled." Elena laughed with pure disgust. "You mean murder?" "I mean imprecise." She wanted to kill him then, not strategically, not defensively. She wanted to watch something break. Instead, she looked afraid. That part was easy. Lucas saw it and moved closer. "Elena," he said, voice lowering, "you cannot win this. Even if you release the files, Ardenvale survives in pieces. Nathaniel resigns. A few executives go quiet. Regulators perform outrage. Markets absorb the story. The machine changes names. Maybe. You know I'm right. I know you talk when you're buying time." His expression sharpened. From somewhere below, sirens wailed faintly, passing down the street. Elena smiled. "My panic button wasn't for police." Lucas grabbed her, but she was already moving. She drove her broken wrist, the one that had never healed right after the crash, into his throat. Pain exploded up her arm. He staggered. She slammed a ceramic mug into his face and bolted for the fire stairs. Lucas recovered fast, too fast. He caught her at the landing, fingers closing around her coat. She twisted free, leaving the coat in his hand, and ran into the rain. The data center was 12 blocks away. She made it in 9 minutes. Lucas made it in 8. The building was an old limestone structure converted into a fortress of glass, steel, biometric locks, and humming machines. Inside, the air was cold enough to raise goose flesh. Blue-white lights ran along corridors lined with server cabinets. The sound was immense and steady, thousands of fans exhaling secrets. Elena entered through a maintenance access point using credentials she had stolen from herself months earlier. At 12:58 a.m., she reached Cage 7C. Her server rack waited behind a steel mesh door. She plugged in the drive. The upload began, 0.4%. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Lucas's voice came through the line, calm and close. "You should have chosen somewhere less theatrical." Elena looked up. Across the corridor, beyond 2 rows of server cabinets, Lucas stepped into view. Blood marked his cheek from the mug. He held a gun low at his side. "Step away from the rack," he said. 2.1% Elena did not move. "You won't shoot in here." "No." "You puncture the wrong cooling line, damage the wrong power system, and this place goes dark. Ardenvale's disaster recovery mirror is in this building." Lucas paused. That was the first thing she had said all night that truly surprised him. Elena smiled. "You didn't know?" His eyes flicked once toward the ceiling cameras. "Their redundancy architecture," she said, "was designed by a contractor they bankrupted 3 years ago. I bought the shell company. Then I bought the debt. Then I bought the access." 5.8%. Lucas walked toward her. "You're bluffing." "You first." He raised the gun. She ran. The shot cracked through the server room like thunder. A panel sparked behind her. Alarms began to scream. Elena turned hard into a narrow maintenance corridor. Lucas followed, fast and controlled. She could hear his shoes against the sealed floor, hear his breathing behind her, not winded, not panicked. She slammed her palm against a wall panel. Nothing happened. For one terrible second, she thought he had beaten that system too. Then the lights shifted red. A fire door dropped between them. Lucas stopped on the other side. Through the small reinforced window, he looked at her. Elena. She backed away. He fired twice into the glass. It spider-webbed but held. She kept moving. 11.3%. Her tablet showed the transfer stuttering as alarms triggered network throttles. Come on, she whispered. She rerouted through a secondary line. 18.9% Lucas disappeared from the window. That frightened her. She knew where he was going. The secure vault. At the heart of the data center was an isolated server chamber used for high-risk financial clients. Biometric access, independent cooling, manual override. Once sealed, it could withstand fire, flood, and physical intrusion for 6 hours. It was also the only room with a direct hard line to the Ardenvale mirror. Lucas would go there to kill the upload at the source. Elena let him. By the time he reached the vault, she was already in the control room above it. She watched him on a grainy monitor as he entered the chamber, gun raised, scanning for her. Elena, he called. His voice echoed through the speakers. You're outdoors. She pressed the intercom. No, she said. I'm out of mercy. Lucas looked up. The vault door slammed shut. Heavy bolts drove home, one after another. Lucas ran to the control panel and entered a code. Denied. He entered another. Denied. Then he laughed softly. Not because it was funny, because he appreciated the design. You wanted me in here, he said. Yes. You knew I'd find the mirror. Yes. You used Daniel to profile Lucas. Elena's jaw tightened. Yes. He looked directly into the camera. For the first time, there was no mask at all, just the man beneath, cold, brilliant, empty. What happens when the upload finishes? He asked. Everything burns. And me? You have 6 hours of oxygen-balanced circulation, waterless fire suppression, and no external override. That sounds survivable. It is. His eyes narrowed. I'm not your murderer, Elena. No, she said. You're his instrument. That distinction matters. Not to me. The upload hit 63%, then stopped. Elena's screen flashed red. Transfer interrupted. Source authentication revoked. Her heart plunged. Nathaniel. Of course. He had been watching. A message appeared on the monitor. Hello, Elena. Then Nathaniel Vale's face filled the screen. He sat in his office atop the Ardenvale Tower, composed as ever, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind him. You've been busy, he said. Elena's mouth went dry. Nathaniel leaned back. Did you really believe I wouldn't recognize my own student's revenge? You killed Priya. His expression did not change. I gave no such order. But you created the world where it happened. That accusation has poetry. Unfortunately, poetry is not evidence. Elena glanced at the upload, still frozen. Nathaniel followed her eyes. The ledger is contained, he said. Your attorney is compromised. Your journalist has been discredited. Your congressional aide is under investigation for unrelated misconduct that will become very relevant by morning. Elena's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Nathaniel smiled. There are no clean exits. I tried to teach you that. In the vault below, Lucas watched silently from the monitor. Nathaniel continued. You can still come home. We mourned you once. We can resurrect you. Traumatized whistleblower, misled by bad actors, fragile after the accident. We'll protect you. Elena looked at him. For one brief second, she saw the man she had once admired. the mentor who stayed late reviewing her models, the executive who remembered her mother's surgery, the fatherly hand on her shoulder when Aurora first beat every benchmark. Then she saw Priya in the passenger seat, eyes open, neck wrong. "No," Elena said. She pressed one key. Nathaniel sighed. "Elena." The screen went black. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then every monitor in the control room lit at once. The upload had not resumed. It had multiplied. Nathaniel had stopped the official transfer, the one she wanted him to see. But beneath it, buried inside the data center's own diagnostic traffic, was a second payload disguised as cooling telemetry, then a third of the power consumption logs, then a fourth in security camera metadata, then a fifth in Ardenvale's disaster recovery sync. The firm's own mirror was distributing the ledger. Nathaniel's face reappeared, but now the calm was gone. "What did you do?" Elena leaned toward the camera. "I let your machine tell a better story." The master ledger hit the dark web at 1:17 a.m. At 1:19, 3 journalists received full searchable archives. At 1:22, SEC enforcement servers ingested the complete package. At 1:26, every major financial newsroom in the world received a link, a password, and a subject line. Ardenval Capital Market Manipulation Ledger. Authenticate fast at 1:31. Elena's pre-recorded confession went live. Not a confession of guilt, a confession of creation. "My name is Elena Rostova," she said on thousands of screens. "I built the core architecture for a predictive trading system called AURORA. I believed it would identify market instability. I was wrong. Ardenvale Capital modified it into an engine for illegal market manipulation." She named names. She showed code. She explained the trades in plain language that regulators could not bury and ordinary people could understand. She ended with Priya. Her death was not an accident. It was the cost of a system that believes people are acceptable losses. By dawn, FBI agents entered Ardenvale's Manhattan headquarters. Nathaniel Vale was arrested in the lobby at 6:08 a.m. He wore a navy suit, no tie, and the expression of a man offended by gravity. The footage played all morning. Markets shook. Politicians performed outrage. Analysts pretended surprise. Ardenvale collapsed faster than any company it had ever destroyed. Lucas Thorne was removed from the Kansas City data center alive, dehydrated and silent. He refused to give his real employer. He refused a plea deal. He refused, in fact, to speak at all except once, when an FBI agent asked whether Elena Rostova had tried to kill him. Lucas smiled faintly and said, "No." She understood me. Elena entered witness protection 3 weeks later. Her new name came with a small house in a dry state she disliked, a job she did not need, and neighbors who waved too often. She was told she was safe. She knew better. Safety was a story people agreed to believe until someone told a better one. Still, some nights, she slept. Some mornings she woke without reaching for a weapon. The world moved on, as it always did. Ardenvale became documentaries, lawsuits, congressional hearings, podcasts, think pieces, cautionary MBA lectures, and eventually a shorthand phrase for corporate rot dressed as innovation. AURORA was dismantled, officially. Elena never believed that anything that powerful truly disappeared, but the machine had learned one lesson its owners had not intended. Every system has a ghost, a hidden variable, a pressure point, a person who sees the back door and decides not to look away. Years later, in certain circles, they still spoke of her as if she were a rumor. The quant who died in the river, the whistleblower who broke Wall Street, the woman who turned their own algorithm against them. They called her the ghost of Arden Vale. Elena Rostova preferred the name Priya had once given her after a 16-hour coding sprint, when AURORA was still just math and ambition and naive hope. "You know what you are?" Priya had said, laughing over cold noodles in the office at midnight. "You're the storm warning." Elena had smiled then. She smiled now, alone on her porch beneath an unfamiliar sky, watching lightning gather far off in the distance. Not the storm, the warning.